Palm Olive Lather Cream and Palm Olive Brushless, both made with soothing olive oil for greater shaving comfort, present...
Strange as it seems.
This is Alois Havrilla bringing you fascinating stories, which John Hicks, the famous cartoonist, has collected from every corner of the globe. Did you know that there are only 44 states in the United States? I'll give you the answer to that one before the end of the program. But first, you will hear the amazing stories of the man whose touch was gold, the most beautiful wife in America, the scientist who was traded for a racehorse, and the duel that was fought with a powder keg. And believe me, these stories are really strange. But there's nothing strange about the fact that more men use palm olive shave cream than any other kind. Why, palm olive is the only nationally sold shave cream made with olive oil, nature's finest skin conditioner. You get smooth, quick, clean shaves with comfort beyond your fondest dreams. Remember, both Palm Olive Lather Cream and Palm Olive Brushless are made with olive oil. Whichever type you buy, be sure it's Palm Olive Shave Cream. Who is the world's most ingenious salesman? When did he live? Where did he live? Well, his name was Timothy Dexter. His story begins shortly after the American Revolution, when the paper money issued by the Continental Congress had little value. Citizens of the United States wanted silver and gold, and Timothy Dexter had silver and gold. In his office in Charleston, Massachusetts, one morning...
Mr. Dexter, I understand you are buying up Continental currency.
Why, don't you know that pasteboard stuff is absolutely worthless? How much of the stuff have you got?
1,000 pounds, sir.
Well, I'll give you 100 pounds for the lot.
Oh, well, that's a big loss, but can I have it in gold, Mr. Dexter?
Very well, in gold.
People thought Timothy Dexter a fool, but Dexter was gambling on the genius of Alexander Hamilton, and he won because Hamilton solved the new nation's financial problems, established a national bank, and the almost worthless continental currency soon had a real value. Timothy Dexter had a small fortune, but that was just the beginning. Dexter chartered a ship to sail to the West Indies. A few hours before sailing time, a clerk is talking to Mr. Dexter.
Mr. Dexter, the ship is in the harbor, ready to sail, but there's no cargo available.
What? Why, I've cleared that vessel for Cuba. There's got to be a cargo. I'll tell you what. We'll load her with cats.
Cats? Cats, Mr. Dexter?
Yes, those four-legged animals that go meow. You've seen them, no doubt.
Oh, yes, sir. Cats.
Offer 10 cents each for all the cats you can get. Have them put aboard. Spread the word along the waterfront. Timothy Dexter is buying cats.
Are you the captain of this vessel?
I am.
Port of Authority of Cuba, Captain. I'm here to inspect the cargo.
Oh, yes, the cargo.
What are you carrying?
What? Well, you can... Here, I'll pull up the hatch. Don't blame this on me, Inspector. I just under orders, you know. There.
Cats. How many of them are there, Captain?
892, sir.
Splendid. Splendid.
Splendid. Are you balmy, Inspector?
Far from it. My government is paying $5 apiece for cats.
What does the government want with cats?
Have you not heard? Havana is overrun with rats. Rats that are eating our food, spreading disease. These cats are worth their weight in gold.
Strange as it seems, Timothy Dexter sold his cargo of cats at a handsome profit. And with the years, Timothy Dexter's fantastic ventures continued. In Dexter's office, his captain says...
Well, sir, the ship's loaded and ready to sail. Have you decided on the port?
Yes, Captain. You'll sail to Newcastle, England.
We're loaded with coal, Mr. Dexter.
Yes, I know that, Captain.
Mr. Dexter, carrying coal to Newcastle? Newcastle's the heart of the British coal industry.
You have your orders, Captain.
Right, sir. You're the owner.
One morning 4 weeks later, and across the Atlantic, Timothy Dexter's Newcastle agent comes aboard.
We're Captain. What's Mr. Dexter sent this time?
I hate to tell you, sir.
Hey, come on, it can't be as bad as that.
I'm afraid Mr. Dexter's losing his mind. It's coal for Newcastle.
Cool. Bless Dexter's heart. The miners are rioting, and there's not a scuttle of coal in the whole of Newcastle.
Strange as it seems, super salesman Timothy Dexter never missed, though he defied all the rules of business. He sent long-handled warming pans to the tropics and sold them as frying pans. He shipped a cargo of woolen mittens to the West Indies and sold them at a profit to a Scandinavian vessel that happened to be in port. Cats and coal, mittens and warming pans and paper money, they all turned into gold for Timothy Dexter, strange as it seems. Well, that story shows there's a difference in most jobs we men do. Now, some men shave in 5 minutes, others in 15. Either way, you'll shave more comfortably with palm olive lather cream, because palm olive lather wilts whiskers like lightning, yet stays moist for slow shavers. Even more important, palm olive leaves your skin smooth, soft, refreshed. You see, palm olive lather cream is made with olive oil, nature's finest skin conditioner. Enjoy this extra benefit at no extra cost. Tomorrow, buy palm olive lather cream made with olive oil.
The most beautiful wife in America.
Who is she? A former Miss America, still a reigning beauty queen, even though it's Mrs. now? No, sir. Strange as it seems, the wife whose face and figure, which in the opinion of competent judges outclassed all others, had never entered a beauty contest before last week. In private life, she's Mrs. Armand Donnarumma of Union City, New Jersey. But for the next 12 months at least, she's Mrs. America. Will you step up to the microphone a moment, Mrs. America?
Right here?
Yes, that's right. Now then, how does it feel to know that you've been chosen the most beautiful wife in the country?
Fine.
Well, I'm a little hazy on the details of the Mrs. America contest. How is it run?
Well, it's a regular beauty contest, Mr. Havrilla, just like the contest for Miss America. Only you have to be married to get into it.
It's a rather new idea, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It was only started last year.
Well, what did they judge you for in the Mrs. America contest?
The same as the other. Your looks and, you know, your figure and all that.
Yes, and while I'm no expert, I should say they've done a very good job of judging. I wish all of you could see Mrs. America of 1939 here in the studio tonight. Mrs. Donnarumma is, I should say, about 5 feet 6 inches tall, and she weighs about 110 pounds. She has golden hair, sparkling blue eyes, and the most beautiful peaches and cream complexion you ever saw. Now tell me, Mrs. Donnarumma, were you nervous in the beauty contest?
Not very. Mostly I was worried about getting back to my job in time. I'd only asked them for 2 hours off, you see.
Oh, you have a job.
Yes, my husband and I both work.
Well, just what do you do?
I'm an elevator operator in a big New York department store. But I'm hoping that maybe this will help me get a job modeling.
I see. Now, and are there any little Donnarummas?
No, not yet.
Well, but tell me again now, how did you happen to enter the contest?
Well, it was my husband's idea.
Oh, so your husband wanted you to enter. And how does he feel now that you're Mrs. America?
Well, he feels pretty good. He says now I have to believe everything he tells me.
Oh, how's that?
Well, I've always laughed at him when he told me he'd marry the prettiest girl in the world. You know, I said he was kidding like husbands do. But now he says it's proved just as true as everything else he's ever said.
Well, so far as I can see, he was absolutely right.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mrs. America of 1939. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, strange as it seems, for Mr. and Mrs. Armand Donnarumma, that very husbandly remark, "I've got the prettiest wife in 48 states," has actually been verified by the decision of the expert judges in the Mrs. America Beauty Contest. Now listen, men. Before you believe judging a beauty contest is a cinch, try it yourself sometime. And before you say all brushless shave creams are hard to spread, try palm olive brushless. Palm olive spreads smoothly, evenly, because it's made with olive oil. Doesn't lump up, dry out, or clog the razor. And best of all, palm olive brushless is kind to your skin because olive oil is nature's finest skin conditioner. Tomorrow, ask for palm olive brushless made with olive oil. From the files of John Hicks comes the amazing but true story of one of America's best-known scientists. It begins in the grim days of Reconstruction, immediately following the war between the states. The story begins in the plantation house of Moses Carver near Diamond Grove, Missouri. The time, the late 1860s. In the great plantation house, Moses Carver questions a Negro hired hand.
Now, let me get this straight, Joe. You say there was a band of those men, and they came to our land just after sundown last night.
Yes, sir. That's the truth, Mr. Carver.
burn down my barns, will they?
Then after that, they run off all the stock down the road, and then they come and took Mary and the baby off with them.
You saw them take Mary away?
Yes, sir, and the baby.
What'd they run off with Mary for, Joe?
Plain meanness, I reckon.
What's that paper you got in your
It's
hand?
got writing on it.
Here, let me see it, Joe.
What'd it say, Mr. Carver?
Those scoundrels. Say they'll give up Mary if I give them that chestnut racehorse.
That's a powerful good horse, Mr. Carver.
Joe, go out in the pasture and catch that horse. I'm going to give it to them.
Moses Carver delivered the racehorse, but the kidnappers never returned Mary. Nothing more was heard of her, but her baby, sick and near death, was returned, and the Carvers did what they could for the infant, nursed it back to health, had it baptized, gave it their own name, and the name of a very famous American, George Washington. Then one day in 1863, on the Missouri plantation, the young colored lad, George Washington Carver, timidly enters the study of his benefactor, Moses Carver.
Hello, George.
Mr. Carver, can I talk with you?
Sure, boy. What's on your mind?
Well, sir, I'm most 14 years old now, and I can't neither read nor write.
George, don't tell me you want to learn to read and write.
Yes, sir, Mr. Carver. I don't want to be a field hand all my life.
I see. Well, I got an old blue-back speller I'll give you, and when the words get too long, I'll help you if I can. Now, how's that?
Thank you, Mr. Carver. I'll do my best for you.
Young George Washington Carver mastered the old blueback speller. Still, his thirst for knowledge was not satisfied, an insatiable thirst and curiosity that impelled him to leave the plantation fields.
Of course I'll teach you, but 8 miles is a long way to walk to school every day.
8 miles ain't no distance at all when you got things you got to learn, ma'am. You just start teaching. I'll be here.
Say, George, what you gonna do when you get through high school?
I reckon I'll go to college.
College? Where you gonna get that much money?
Same as I'm doing here in Minneapolis. Wait for it. Maybe wash dishes, maybe scrub floors.
George Washington Carver,
Yes, sir.
having fulfilled the requirements laid down by the Board of Trustees, Iowa State College is happy to present to you the degree of Master of Science.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Studying by day, working by night, young George Washington Carver obtained an education few of his race possessed in the year 1896. He became associated with Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. One day during the World War, Booker T. Washington, founder of the college, entered the laboratory of the scientist.
My secretary said you wanted me to come down to your laboratory, Dr. Carver.
Yes, Mr. Washington. You remember the government reports you showed me a short time ago?
You mean about the cotton crop being destroyed by boll weevil?
Yes. Then we discussed the wheat shortage.
Yes, that's right.
Our people here in the South are really facing starvation. No cotton this year, no food.
It looks very serious, Carver.
Well, I've been experimenting here, and I think I've got something. Here, taste this.
Huh?
Oh, you like it?
Hey, that's good. That's very good, but I don't
That's
see...
sweet potato bread, Mr. Washington.
Sweet potato bread?
Yes, and that's what's going to feed our people during this war. We're going to plant sweet potatoes on the cotton fields and use sweet potato in bread instead of grain. And I'm working on other uses, too. I'll find a market for our crops.
But with the harvesting of the first large sweet potato crop that was to be used as a wheat substitute, George Washington Carver's troubles really began.
Dr. Carver, the dietitians want to know exactly what food value is in this new bread.
Dr. Carver, we doctors are wondering if this bread is really digestible.
Frankly, Dr. Carver, the government doubts that it is possible to bake bread from sweet potatoes. That's why I called you to Washington.
As Dr. Carver answered all criticisms, satisfied dietitians, physicians, and the United States government, the fame of the Negro scientist grew. Then one day, from another scientist laboratory in New Jersey, comes a telegram.
To George Washington Carver, Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee, Alabama. I followed your work. Would be honored if you would join me in experiments at my laboratory. Name your own salary. We'll pay your expenses up here to consider proposition. Signed, Thomas A. Edison.
To Thomas A. Edison, Menlo Park, New Jersey. Thank you very much. My people need me here. There's no need for me to waste your money by coming north to say no. Signed, George Washington Carver.
Refusing the offer of Thomas A. Edison, George Washington Carver continued his work and experiments. Then a few months later in his laboratory, Booker T. Washington watches Mr. Carver as he pours a muddy solution from a test tube.
This, Mr. Washington, is an analysis of the soil on which we grew the sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of mineral has been exhausted from this soil by the sweet potato.
Well, what are we going to do?
We must issue a bulletin telling the farmers to grow peanuts.
Peanuts?
They'll revitalize the soil, and it's the only thing that will.
But, man alive, Carver, peanuts aren't even listed as a crop on the government report.
They will be, Mr. Washington.
But what are people going to do with the peanut crop?
I'll have to find that out, Mr. Washington. I'll have to find a use for the peanut.
Again, Mr. Carver found the answer to the farmer's problem in his laboratory. And strange as it seems, today all the world knows that George Washington Carver's experiments with the peanut have been of enormous value to Southern agriculture. Dr. Carver is right here in the studio with me, and we'll let him tell his own story. Dr. Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Havrilla. And it's quite an experience to sit back and have your life story acted out for you.
Oh, but it's a life story with a lot more chapters yet to be written, Dr. Carver.
I certainly hope so, Mr. Havrilla. But I'm not as young as I once was. I was somewhere in the 70s on my last birthday.
Dr. Carver, I understand you've raised the peanut to new heights.
Well, the peanut industry is a $60 million business now. At Tuskegee, we've developed more than 200 products from peanuts. We've made everything from axle grease to synthetic rubber, and we're finding out new uses for the peanut constantly.
What are you working on now, Dr. Carver?
The finest use we've been able to make of peanuts is in the treatment of the after effects of infantile paralysis. That's what I'm working on now. Massages with peanut oils has worked miracles in some cases. There is a lot of work to be done, but I feel we're on the trail of something really important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carver. You have just heard Dr. George Washington Carver, one of America's leading agriculture scientists, a man who has devoted his life to help give the agricultural South a new outlook on life. This great scientist is not ashamed of the fact that he does not know birth date, and strange as it seems, he was once traded for a racehorse. Friends, you can't shave one whisker without touching the blade to your skin. Therefore, I suggest Palmolive shave cream made with olive oil, because olive oil is nature's finest skin conditioner. You'll enjoy smooth shaves, plus real skin comfort. Both Palmolive lather cream and Palmolive brushless are made with olive oil, but cost no more. So take your choice. Just be sure it's Palmolive shave cream. Dueling is not an American sport, but when an American just has to fight a duel, you can trust him to find an unusual way of doing it. And that's just what the American patriot, General Israel Putnam, did when he made the most unusual choice of weapons in the history of dueling. As our story opens, Putnam was in command of a revolutionary garrison near the Hudson River when one of his soldiers approached him.
General Putnam, we're in for a bit of trouble.
Edward, trouble? We've had trouble in infinite variety. Now, what's the new nuisance?
This redcoat officer you paroled, Major Hawks. He's parading around town declaring you're a coward.
Coward, eh? Mustn't let the men think I'm a coward.
But what can you do, General Putnam? Challenge him?
Challenge him? To a duel? And to which I'm surprised, of course. If he should happen to challenge me, well, naturally. But suppose we have a little chat with this redcoat. Come on, come on.
There's the Major now, General.
So it is. Red-faced chap, isn't he? Tastes almost as red as his jacket. Comes to drinking too much port after dinner. Shouldn't drink too much port after dinner, though.
Here he comes, General. Swaggering as if he were cock of the walk instead of a parole prisoner.
Cock of the walk, eh? Gives me a splendid idea. Good afternoon, Major. May I have a word with you?
Eh? What word would you want with me, rebel?
I've heard you compared me to a mouse, a frightened mouse.
And if I have?
Why, I was just thinking how strange that I, too, was just comparing you to...
You can't call me a mouse?
No, not at all. Rather a rooster, a strutting, red-combed rooster.
You're insulting, sir.
Perhaps you'd oblige us by crowing.
You've insulted me, sir. I demand satisfaction.
Eh?
You're suggesting a duel?
If you're a gentleman, you'll give me a chance to wipe out this insult.
Very well, Major, but since I'm the challenge party, I have the choice of weapons.
Of course.
So be it. Under the old oak just outside the garrison gate at sunrise tomorrow. Agreed?
Agreed.
True to his word, early the following morning, General Putnam was waiting for the British officer under the old oak just outside the garrison gates. General Putnam, seated on a small keg, is approached by one of his seconds.
General Putnam? Sir? Major Hawks is here. Now then, what about the weapons?
Weapons. Oh, yes. Of course, weapons. I'm sitting on the weapons.
What?
This gunpowder keg.
But, General, this is highly irregular.
What's this nonsense about weapons? Swords or pistols? It's all the same to me.
No, Major. Neither swords nor pistols. Since a duel is a test of courage, well, there's room on this powder keg for both of us to sit.
Sir, this is nonsense.
You'll note there's a fuse attached. May burn 10 minutes, may burn 5, or less.
You're mad, General.
Not at all. We'll both sit on the keg. I light the fuse, or you may light it if you wish. First man to run away, or I should say the first man to give up his seat on the keg is the loser. Simple, eh?
General Putnam, this is highly irregular. There is nothing in the code.
The code says the challenge party has the choice of weapon.
It's crude and ungentlemanly. But I'll go through with it.
Splendid. Pray be seated.
It's madness. Madness, I tell you.
Would you care to light the fuse? No? No, then permit me. There, this torch will do it.
It's sheer insanity.
I quite agree, Major. But two otherwise intelligent men should settle some childish dispute with pistols or cold steel. It's sheer insanity.
How long will that fuse burn?
Well, hard to tell. Fuses such as we have are of very poor quality. Some burn fast and some burn slow.
I believe we'll have a warm day, Major. Both likely to be blown to bits.
By the way, Major, there's said to be splendid fishing in the brook.
You're mad, sir. We're both on the edge of eternity.
Eternity? Oh, yes. The theologians have some very interesting theories about eternity. There's one school that holds that... Feels getting a bit short, isn't it?
You fool. Die if you insist. But I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Come back, Major. Come back. There's nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about? You'll be blown to bits.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, Major. You see, this cask here is full of onions.
The Major couldn't take it, and so General Putnam won his curious duel. Strange as it seems, the American general saved his honor by fighting a duel with a keg of onions. Now for a quick flight from those dueling days to the days of the modern man. Here's an interesting letter from Mr. I. Braun of New York City. He writes, Palm Olive Brushless not only leaves my face smooth and free from irritation, but also seems to help my razor catch and shave off every little whisker on my entire face. Thanks, Mr. Braun. And gentlemen, you can expect the same happy shaves if you'll try 1 tube of Palm Olive Brushless made with olive oil. I'll amend that to include Palm Olive Lather Cream, too, because it's also made with olive oil. But just in case you don't like Palm Olive Shave Cream, send the empty tube to us, and we'll refund your money. Tomorrow, then, buy Palm Olive Shave Cream, lather or brushless. Both are made with olive oil. And now, since it's almost time to say goodnight, I want to tell you about those 44 states I mentioned at the beginning of the program. Yes, there are only 44 states in the United States. Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Kentucky are officially known not as states, but as commonwealths, a term which originally stood for a greater amount of self-government than that held by a state. It's technical, but it's true. Next week, John Hicks brings you the amazing true story of the cobbler who became a doctor overnight and operated on over 600 people. Presented by the two famous shave creams made with soothing olive and palm oils for greater shaving comfort. Palm Olive Lather Cream, Palm Olive Brushless. You know, daylight saving time ends Sunday, September 24th. If your community has been on standard time right along, this program will reach you 1 hour later. Otherwise, tune in next week as usual. And so until next Thursday night, this is Aloys Ervilla bidding each of you a good night.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.